Alright guys, this video is about unit conversions, or sometimes it's called dimensional analysis. It's where we're taking whatever units we have and changing them into different units. So I'm going to show you how I want you to do this. There are lots of different ways. I prefer the multiplication method. So there's no equation making. We are just going to multiply by ratios of 1. So I'll explain what that means as we go along. The first example here is, what is 3.5 milliliters in liters? So the first thing I'm going to have you do is write the given measurement, 3.5 milliliters. And if it does not have fractional units, this one is just milliliters. Sometimes you'll have units that are something like grams per milliliter, and so if you had that, you would write the fraction with the units on top and the units on the bottom. But this one just has milliliters, so we're going to just have units on top and put it over 1. And so we've made our fraction. Dividing by 1 doesn't change the value of this at all, so we haven't changed anything. So then we're going to multiply by our conversion ratio, or our ratio of milliliters to what we want to change it to, liters. And in this case, we can directly convert this with just one step multiplication, because I know that there are 1,000 milliliters in 1 liter. And I'm going to arrange this so that I have my milliliters on the bottom now in my denominator and my liters on top in my numerator, so that when I multiply, I have milliliters on top and milliliters on the bottom. And as you may know, if you have the same thing on top and on bottom of a fraction, it cancels itself out, or it divides out and turns into 1. So we're going to multiply it by this, and then we just have to fill in our ratio here. We know that 1 liter, it's big, is equivalent to 1,000 milliliters. The prefix milli means 1,000. And so this is just like multiplying our 3.5 by 1, because 1 liter is exactly the same as 1,000 milliliters, so this fraction is just 1. So anytime you do this, you want to only multiply by fractions that are a ratio equal to 1. Okay, so then when we multiply our fractions, we're just going to multiply our numerator times our numerator. So 3.5 times 1 is 3.5, and these units canceled out, and so my units here will be liters. Then on the bottom, the denominators are 1 times 1,000, which is just 1,000, and I don't have any units down there to worry about. And so then if you need to, you can use your calculator. And so you would put it in your calculator, top number divided by bottom number, and we would get our answer. Another way to divide, especially when you have ones and zeros, like 10, 100, 1,000, is that you can just count the number of zeros, and so that's going to move my decimal place back that number of times. So either way you do it, it's 0.0035 liters, because I have liters over in my problem. And we will talk about sig figs later on, but this is not the correct number of sig figs. It needs to only have 2 sig figs, but that is numerically the answer. And that's how you would convert milliliters to liters. All right, the next one is, what is 5.4 grams expressed in kilograms? So same start, I'm going to do 5.4 grams over 1. And then I'm going to figure out some fraction that is equal to 1 that I can multiply this by. And I really want to get rid of my units of grams, so I want my fraction to have grams in the bottom and kilograms on top. And the reason I want that, once again, is so that my grams are on top and on bottom. Numerator and denominator can cancel each other out when you divide. So I know that a kilogram is bigger. So 1 kilogram would be 1,000 grams. Kilo also means 1,000 in your metric system prefixes. And so I'm going to multiply. 5.4 times 1 is 5.4. 1 times 1,000 is 1,000. You can type this in your calculator if you want, or we have 3 zeros here in our denominator, so I can move this back 3 times. So we have this, and my units that I have left over are kilograms. And once again, this is not the correct number of sig figs. I'm just showing you how to work these problems. Sig figs would be a different video to watch. Okay, number 3, change 95,000 seconds into months. So this is no longer our metric system, and we have our SI units, but we want to change them into months. So 95,000 seconds over 1. And I'm going to try to multiply by something that has seconds in the denominator. Now, if I knew how many seconds were in 1 month, I could go ahead and directly convert it into months, but I don't know that. So I have to multiply it by something I know or that I can find out. And so the only thing I know is that there are 60 seconds in 1 minute. So I'm going to multiply by that. Now that gets rid of my seconds, but now I have minutes. So I'm going to need to multiply by another fraction. This time I want to get rid of minutes. So I'm going to put minutes in the denominator. And then I know how many minutes are in a day. So I know that there are, no, an hour, not a day. I know that there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. That gets rid of my units of minutes. But now I have hours to deal with. So I know that there are 24 hours in 1 day. And this is where our math can get a little weird because it depends on what month you're talking about. But in general, we can say that there's 30 days in a month. So my hours cancel out. I want days to go away, so I'm going to put that down here. And months on top. And we're going to say there's 30 days in 1 month. Okay, so now all of my units have canceled out except for months. So when I solve this, I will have months as my units. And I'm just going to multiply my numerators across, which is 95,000 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1, so 95,000. And my denominator is going to be 1 times 60 times 60 times 24 times 30. Oh, and that's not typing. So we get this number. And so then we're going to divide 95000. My batteries are dying. All right, well, you guys can divide that. And whatever you get will have the units of months. And it should be a very small amount of months because I see my numerator is much smaller than my denominator. Okay, next problem is 50 milliliters is how many ounces? And I'm just going to bring up the calculator on my computer while we do this. So go ahead and try to set that up using what you've known or what you know. So we're going to write 50 milliliters over 1. And then we're going to use our conversion ratio here. So I'm going to multiply. I know I want milliliters in the bottom because I want my ounces to be my final answer. And then my milliliters will cancel out if I have it in the numerator and the denominator. So I'm going to put 1 ounce on top and 29.6 milliliters on the bottom. I'm going to multiply, so I get 50 over 29.6. Make sure you're typing 50 in first, then your divided by sign, then your 29.6. And we get 1.689, 1.6891891, blah, blah, blah. So I want to talk to you about rounding. In this case, I'm going to round to 1 decimal place. So I'm going to cut it off here. And so I'm going to look over here, and that is bigger than 5, or it's 5 or bigger. So I'm going to round this number up to 1.7. And then I want to double check that my units worked out correctly. My milliliters canceled out, and I have ounces. So I have 1.7 ounces as my answer. So please don't write that whole big long thing that's on your calculator screen. Figure out your sig figs. Which, as I said, is in a different video. Okay, this last one says change 3 milliliters into cubic centimeters, or centimeters to the 3rd power. So, if you remember, 1 milliliter is 1 cubic centimeter. 1 milliliter is 1 cubic centimeter. So this is just a 1-to-1 ratio, and I can show you the math, but so when I multiply 3 times 1, I get 3. 1 times 1 is 1. 3 divided by 1 is 3. These cancel out, and I get 3 cubic centimeters. So anytime you have milliliters, it's the exact same number of cubic centimeters, or vice versa. If you have 3 cubic centimeters, you also have 3 milliliters. They are equivalent to each other. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and solve this now for you guys now that I have a calculator. So bear with me for 1 second.